Strathchailleach and Strathan Bothies in the northwest both have established peat cuttings. The peat cutting at Strathchailleach was supposedly the reason that the last resident, Sandy McCrory Smith, remained there for so long, claiming it was the finest peat in the country. To take the time to cut peat is an act of bothy hospitality. Since the peat you cut needs to be dried first, you are cutting it for visitors that arrive after you and not for yourself. If previous visitors have been thoughtful, there will be peat left drying for you in the peat shed. The peat cutting at Strathchailleach can be found a few hundred metres along the westward curve of the burn, currently marked by a wooden post. In this video, you see Paul and Roland using a peat tusker, a tool specific to task. This is not provided in the bothy, but the spade works well. Peat is soft to cut once the surface has been turfed and should be cut into long slices looking like a very fudgy chocolate cake. These slices should then be cut with the tusker or spade into usable squares and stacked in a way that allows air circulation, either by the bank or in the peat shed by the east end of the bothy where it is sheltered from the elements. Depending on the weather, peat takes between 2 and 8 weeks to dry for best use, ideally being flipped when a cross develops on one side. To light a peat fire, begin with a bed of lit kindling and stack a couple squares on top. A firelighter helps the process. A peat fire is slow burning and efficient with a smoky, oily aroma. Burning wet peat results in a lot of smoke and a struggling fire. Burning wet peat also emits higher levels of carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide also continues to be released from peat ash. When you are finished with your fire, remove the ashes into the provided bucket and take outside. Scatter like you would any other fire ash. Please do not leave the ash in the bothy. Carbon monoxide detectors are installed in every bothy, and we appreciate if every visitor checks that they are still working on arrival by pressing the button until a loud beep is heard. If the detector goes off during your stay, please vacate the bothy, leaving doors and windows open until the alarm ceases. A sign reminding you of the procedure around peat and carbon monoxide can be found in the bothy. Peat fires are a traditional part of Scottish culture, though with the prevalence now of gas and electric in homes, as well as awareness towards the role of peat as a carbon sink and conservation efforts to protect the peatland habitat, they are seen less and less, and rarely outside the most remote corners and distant islands. We ask that you do not cut peat at bothies without an established cutting, and that you replenish any cut peat that you use for a future visitor.